Hello everyone and welcome to Commander 99. We've got a very special video here for you. We received free preview cards from Wizards of the Coast. They were nice enough to send us out 5 preview cards, including a legendary creature here. So I'm going to start things off with talking about that. But I wanted to mention first that we do have some links in the description below, not only to this video, but also to our Twitter post where we'll be sharing the images directly. So if you're here to see the card and you want to just head straight to Twitter, go ahead and share it there. So let's get into the legendary creature. Let's start things off. I've got Armix Filgree Thrasher for 2 and a black. This legendary artifact golem says that whenever Armix Filgree Thrasher attacks, you may discard a card. When you do, target creature defending player controls gets -X/-X, where X is the number of artifact cards you control, plus the number of artifact cards in your graveyard. Now, what makes Armix unique is not only its ability that interacts with our artifacts, but it is also a partner commander. And so you can have 2 commanders that you can have in your command zone, and you can include Armix as one of them. Now, before I get into who we've decided to pair with Armix, I wanted to first mention some of our other preview cards. First, we have another new card with Staunch Throne Guard. This is a 5-mana artifact creature construct with vigilance, and whenever it enters the battlefield, you become the monarch. It's a 2/5 creature, and I think what I really like most about this card is that it is the first artifact creature, the first colorless spell to give you the ability to become the monarch. So that's something very unique about Staunch Throne Guard. You can just, if you really enjoy the monarch mechanic and you are looking for other ways to include that in your decks outside of your land base or some of the few cards that they've kind of announced, you have access to that. A few of our other cards are reprints, and so we've got 3 here. We got Perilous Mirror. When it dies, it deals 2 damage to any target, so it's good in play or being sent to the graveyard. Bitter Revelation allows you to look at the top 4 cards of your library and put 2 of them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. You lose 2 life afterwards. So the way this works is that you can refill your hand as well as put 2 artifacts in the graveyard for Armix, which is great. And the same goes for our Armillary Sphere, is that it's good on the battlefield or in the graveyard because you can pay 2 mana to sacrifice our Armillary Sphere and look for 2 basic lands and put them into your hand. So all of these cards that we received work really well with the commander, and we wanted to include them kind of in our deck discussion here. And so what I've gone and done is I've paired Armix off. We've got a partner, and one of the more obvious choices is Silas Renn, Seeker Adept, because what Armix wants to do here is put artifacts from your hand directly into the graveyard, because if you discard artifacts, you're going to give creatures negative power and negative toughness. Well, Silas Renn, when it deals combat damage to a player, you're going to choose an artifact from your graveyard. You're going to be able to cast that card this turn, so you can then cause one of your opponent's creatures to lose power, and then have Silas Renn cast the card that you've just discarded. So it's a great pair between these 2 to be able to attack with both of them, and they're both combat oriented, and it's really good. So to start things off, we're going to talk about a few different packages that come along specifically designed for Armix in this deck. I've included obviously looting effects, ways to allow you to draw and discard, so you're not only putting cards in your graveyard with Armix, but you're also discarding cards in other ways to fill your graveyard up with more artifacts. So you've got the Smuggler's Copter. When you crew it up and it attacks or blocks, you get to draw and discard. Riddlesmith, anytime you cast an artifact, you do the same. Mask of Memory. With Armix being able to be unblocked, you can easily get in for combat damage, draw 2 cards, discard 1, and then Bag of Holding is just great when you discard cards because you can save them for later. Sacrifice Bag of Holding, put them all back in your hand. It's a great way to refill your hand, and it also has its own looting effect to draw and discard. So not only that, but we have ways to draw cards directly. So Baleful Strix, ETBs, draw you a card, goes to the bin, it's an artifact. Shimmer Dragon is another way to draw you cards, tapping 2 of your artifacts, because you're going to want to have as many in play as possible with Armix. So you can just tap 2 down to draw a card. Vidalcan Archmage draws you cards anytime you cast an artifact. So you just want to be able to refill your hand as much as possible. Now, another little sub-theme is that because Armix is causing you to discard so much, I wanted to be able to include other ways to get value out of discarding cards. And so you have things like madness effects. So I made sure to include a bunch of different madness cards here to get value from when they are discarded. So most of them are removal spells. You've got Big Game Hunter, ETBs, when it's madness, cast for 1. Power 4 or greater, creature gets destroyed. Dark Withering, destroys a target non-black creature. Nightshade Assassin does something really interesting, because Armix not only causes them to lose -X/-X, but also Nightshade Assassin does. So at ETBs, you reveal some black cards from your hand, and that creature is likely gonna hit the bin. And we've got a few others here with ways to gain control of creatures, drawing cards, and recurring cards from your graveyard. So anything you discard with Armix, something like Grave Scrambler, which can return a creature from your graveyard to your hand, and Call to the Nether World. It has a madness cost of 0, so it just gets to return any black creature card from your graveyard back to your hand. So pure value with that. From there, I wanted to include something that not only works well with Armix, but also works well with Silas. So being able to get value off of your artifacts from not only being on the battlefield, but also being in the graveyard. So we included a small package of eggs here, including your Witching Well, your Nile Spellbomb, Mind Stone, Metal Spinner's Puzzle Knot, Ichor Wellsprings, Execution's Capital, Darkwater Egg. Just there's so many options for ways to not only get value from when the artifacts are in play, but also when they hit the bin. So a lot of these sacrifice themselves to draw you cards, to get you more value. So they can serve kind of a bit of a double purpose with Armix's ability. From there are other ways to get artifacts into your graveyard. Because if you're not only putting the artifacts in by sacrificing them, you've got other ways to do so. So Trading Post allows you to sacrifice an artifact to draw a card. Scarecrow sacrifices itself to draw a card, or you could just sacrifice it to return another artifact from your graveyard. Sign Master Thopterus can make some Thopters, which is nice, but really the activation for 2 to sacrifice some artifacts and draw a card is really why this card is included in the deck. Sage of Latinum, sacrifice an artifact, draw a card. I think you're kind of sensing a theme here. Morbid Curiosity allows you to sacrifice an artifact or creature to draw cards equal to that permanent's converted mana cost. Herald of Anguish allows you to sacrifice an artifact to give a creature -2/-2. Another similarity to what Armix does. Ethereum Astrolabe, sacrifice an artifact to draw a card, and Costly Plunderer does the same thing. So you're just sacrificing your artifacts once they hit the board to draw some extra cards. To go along with the recursion side of things for Silas Renn, you've got a few cards in here that allow you to play artifacts from your graveyard. Emery, Lurker of the Lock, allows you to choose an artifact from your graveyard and cast it at this turn. Resourceful Return brings a creature card from your graveyard to your hand. If you control an artifact, draw a card. Rona allows you to exile a historic card, which would most likely be an artifact card, from your graveyard, and then you can cast it as long as Rona's on board. Skeleton Shard, you can pay a black mana to return an artifact from your graveyard to your hand. So there's just a whole bunch of recursion here. We included Swiftfoot Boots and Lightning Greaves to give Armix or Silas Renn not only protection, but also to give them haste so that they can attack on the same turn that they're played. Keys to the City is going to make them unblockable. And then there are a few ways to just bolster their power, because not only are you going to be reducing the power of your opponent's creatures, but you also want to power yours up. And Cards like Cranial Plating give gives the equipped creature you control +1/+0 for each artifact you control. Salvage Slasher gets +1/+0 for each artifact you control. So it's just another way to gain extra value off of Armix. And then from there, you also have a few cards that just work really well with discard outlets, like the Bone Miser and Archfiend of Ifnir. Anytime you cycle or discard a card, Archfiend of Ifnir is going to give all your opponent's creatures -1/-1 counters, and then Bone Miser can either draw you cards, make you mana, or make a zombie based on whatever type of card you choose to discard. And in most cases, you're probably going to be discarding artifacts, right? To round things out, we have a couple Planeswalkers in the deck. You've got Tezzeret the Schemer, gives a creature +X/-X, where X is the number of artifacts you control. Works really well with that -2 ability, and also creates Ethereum cells so to bolster up your artifact count. And then when you have just a super massive amount of artifacts on your board, you're going to use Tezzeret Master of the Bridge to kind of close things out from there, because it deals X damage to each opponent, where X is the number of artifacts you control, and also gains you a bit of life there too. And from there, it also has that that negative ability to return artifacts from your graveyards to your hand. So the way this deck functions is it synergizes really well with artifacts, and Armix is a great addition to that strategy in terms of, you know, partnering with Silas Renn, because up until this point, Silas Renn only had a Curie Lineslinger. So you had that 4-color artifact deck. You had those two partners paired together, and we also had a few more that were recently introduced in Commander Legends that I'm gonna try and include links in the description as well for that. That as you're playing Commander Legends and you're kind of drafting the set, I think it's really good to keep an eye out for these commanders in particular, because they're gonna work really well with your Armix. So you have Keskit, the Flesh Sculptor. So if you're just looking to build mono black artifacts, Armix can put artifacts in your graveyards, and so can Keskit. By sacrificing 3 other artifacts, you get to fill your hand up a bit and put 2 of them into your hand while you put the other in the graveyard. And then also from there, you had Rebbec, Architect of Ascension. Artifacts you control have protection from each converted mana cost among artifacts you control. And so partner that with Armix, and you're probably going to have a ton of artifacts on board. So I definitely think that they're bolstering up artifacts a bit in the Commander Legends set. And that about wraps up this kind of deck discussion here. Hopefully, you know, you guys enjoyed our preview card. I know it's definitely exciting to be able to, you know, talk about this and share it with you guys. And, you know, I'm going to have a deck list in the description below for you as well, along with those links that I mentioned earlier. So if you want to share the card images, that you can do that directly on Twitter, or we have the video linked down in the description below. But thanks everyone for coming out. Thanks for watching, and I will see you around. Back for some more Moto gameplay on Monday nights, 7 p.m. Eastern. See you guys. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like, tell us why, share on social media, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you to our current Patreon supporters, and thank you for watching.